Anin, and welcome to our last spreadsheet video for this course. This is kind of this one is the big deal. This one is the thing that if you're going to take Excel home and you're going to use it in your life, this is the one thing that you're going to find is actually a useful use case. This is the one that even the average person is going to be able to use to do their work at home, to balance the family budget, to make sure that to find an actual use case. And I actually encourage anybody to do this. Like, try it out for like a month, try it out for 6 months, just because it can give you a lot of valuable insight into your own spending habits. Just to try it out. So we're going to do data validation, which is a process where we can ensure that only certain data can be in a cell. We're going to use this special function called SUMIF, which is a way to add numbers together only if a certain condition is true. We're going to use sparklines, which are kind of like building a chart inside of a single cell, which you've seen before. And then we're going to use the fill handle to which is a tool that we are all very familiar with. It's one of the most important ones in Excel and all spreadsheet software. And then I want to emphasize the importance of understanding just how important it is to have a firm grasp of basic functions and formulas. So we're going to download the start file. And hopefully this is the last time I will. I'm going to save it over one of these ones here and open it in Excel. I'm using Microsoft 365. If you are still using Office 2016 because you have one of our computers from campus, that is fine. Everything should look exactly the same. Okay, so the first sheet is going to be this this sort of summary sheet. And you'll notice it's not filled in. Most of the stuff is blank. We're going to go through the process of filling this in. I'm going to walk you through some of it, and then I'll pause the video, and then you can attempt some small tasks yourself. So here is where the actual data is. We're going to draw from these two tables right here to fill in the summary table. So this is the actual data, and then we're going to use it on the other sheet. So this is a very common way to use Excel, is to have one sheet with your data and one sheet with your data analysis. So first, let's get this functional. So when I want to add a transaction here, I need to make sure that each transaction item has a date, an amount, a description, and then a category. And this category needs to be drawn from the list of allowed categories, which are these items here on this sheet. So to that end, I've created a process of data validation. So if you check here, I have a drop-down menu that shows only those items from that list, and they're in that same order. So only these items can be in the list. So for example, let's say, oh no, my tires were bald and I had to get new tires for the car, which is horrible and expensive. And okay, I want to just type car as my expense. You notice this little green tag appears in the corner, and if you click on it again, you actually get this warning that says data validation error. This is not an accepted term from our list. Easier way to do this, to fix the problem, is to click the drop down and select an item from the list. That'll make sure that you don't make any mistakes. So that's how you can add new items. How do I make that happen over here? So we only want certain categories. There's fewer categories here. Savings, money added to your savings, money added to your paycheck, money that comes from your paycheck, and then other sources of income. How do I do that here? How do I make sure that the items in this can be only things from that list? And you'll see why we want to do this in a little bit. Well, here's how it works. You go to the Data tab. We're going to just go ahead and select this entire column, just this data, or just these empty cells. And then over here in the Data Tools group is a tool called Data Validation. So we'll click on that, and this brings up this little menu. We want to allow only values that are in a particular list. So so right now it'll allow any value to be in that cell. So we'll click this drop down and we'll say we only want values from a certain list. Okay, so we want allow a list of data between this source. So we're going to click this to start editing that, and then we want only one of these 3 values to be in there, and then hit enter, and then we have our data validation created. You can there is a way to set it so that like it just will flat out reject invalid data, but we're not going to do that. We're just going to have it be just flash a warning. So we'll hit OK, and now all of a sudden all of these things have a little drop down next to them. So here, if I click on the drop down, I know that I can set this to be a paycheck, and that one also is a paycheck. So now those have their data validation. Those cells can only be specific values, which is nice. So how do we use this? Back over here, we have decided these are the amounts of money that we have projected to spend this month on each of these things. Let's see how they compare to what we actually spent. So in food, so this is what we do. What we want to do is, we're going to do this in kind of a cheaty way, a little less, yeah, it'll be fine. We're going to use a special function called the SUMIF function. You can do this up here in formulas. I believe it's under math. And if you scroll down, you'll find there it is, SUMIF. Now we know the sum function will add together any cells that you put in its parentheses. So like if I put sum, I can just add together all that stuff, and it will just add it all together. Sorry, I almost spilled my coffee. That's not what we want. We only want it to add these numbers together if this value matches the one for that line item. So like for here, I only want to add together food items. And so there are some food items in here. I only want to add those together. But I want to do this automatically. I don't have to think about it. So that's where SUMIF comes in. So I'm not going to use the menu. I'm just going to type it because it's easier. And you'll notice in the tooltip, we've got 3 different things that it wants. So first it wants a range. So it wants to know where those values are coming from. So the range of values it's going to be comparing are these ones. So we'll just select the whole column. It's just easier. Select the whole column, column D, all that value. And you'll notice in our formula bar, we now have SUMIF transaction list. That's the name of this sheet. And then we have column D, just everything in column D. Now we hit a comma. Now it's asking for the criteria. Well, the criteria is this. We just want all the things from that transaction list that have this value. So it's going to find only those line items that have that value. We put in another comma. And now this is going to be the sum range. So this is all the numbers that we want to add together. So transaction list, that's going to be column B. We just want to add every number in this column together if it happens to have the word food in this column. That's what this function is doing. So you'll see the whole function up here on the video in my function bar. So you can pause the video, you can make sure that yours looks exactly the same as mine, and then hit enter. And there I have $271. Now, to fill in the rest of this is super easy. We just use the fill handle because these are just using entire columns. We don't have to worry about them being absolute values or absolute references. The only thing that needs to update is this one. So that'll reference just a different one of these expense categories each time. It'll just automatically increment to reference the correct one. So if I use the fill handle, drag it down to the bottom, I'll get the values that I'm expecting. Same thing happens over here. Equals. I'm going to do this one a little faster. You can pause the video yourself and work on it on your own. I want to use column I, comma. I want to measure it against this criteria, comma. And I want to add together column G. Enter. And then fill handle down. All right. Next thing to do is to figure out the difference. So this is going to be planned minus this. No, that's not how I want to do it. We want to do the actual minus the planned for expenses, because it's going to be like, how much more did I spend? Oh, it turns out I spent less. I did some fancy conditional formatting that would turn the text red if it was a negative number. But in this case, red is good because That's where we spent less than we should have. And black is bad because that's where we spent more than we should have. So there's our differences. And then just, this is as easy as pie. Our planned is going to be the sum of all these numbers. Sorry, all these numbers. Enter. Actual is going to be the sum of all these numbers. And yeah, the difference will be just that. So we spent $589 more than we planned to because of those stupid new tires we had to get. And we can do the same thing over here. The difference is going to be actual minus savings, or actual minus planned, actual minus planned, actual minus planned. So basic functions, no fancy formulas. We'll sum up all of this and fill handle it across. So now we've got the data summarized up here. So we've basically taken a list, and this list, if this was a real month, this could be quite extensive, right? But here we've smushed it all up using some relatively straightforward functions to create a summary of all of our data. So let's do something kind of fun. Let's create like a simple data visualization using a tool called data bars. So our planned expenses, so we want to create data bars here. Our planned expenses was this number, enter. Our actual expenses were here. Now let's make it so that we can see the difference between the two at a glance. So we'll select the two cells, and notice I have them kind of merged into like they're these 3-cell blocks, so they look kind of bigger. We'll select them. We'll go up here in the Home tab to Conditional Formatting. And then right down here is Data Bars. Pick one of the ones in the solid fill, and you can see immediately what it's doing. It'll kind of like create conditional like fill color based on the relative values in each of these cells. So I'm going to go with the green. And you can do the same thing over here. We'll go planned and actual, and then highlight the two. These ones, the difference is going to be not as stark. We'll still go with the green. But you can see there's a slight difference there. Now, here's another thing we can do. Let's do the same thing over here, start balance and end balance. This one is going to require a little bit of thinking about how you do this. Start balance is easy. That's here. End balance is going to be the start balance minus all the money you spent plus all the money that came in. So that's going to give us our balance at the beginning of the month and our balance at the end of the month. So let's go ahead and do that. Conditional formatting, data bars. Let's do blue. And so you can see at a glance that that is what happened. So the increase in savings will be the starting balance it'll be it'll be starting balance minus this. Yeah. It'll be the other way around. Sorry. It'll be end balance minus starting balance. So yeah, $294, negative $294. That's not great. But let's say, for example, oh, we got our Halloween bonus. Is there a Halloween bonus? That was going to be a $500 check. Bonus. And then over here, we'll just put other. And then we go over here and we can see things changed. So now our actual is quite a bit higher and our end balance is a little bit higher and our increase in savings is a positive number. So you can see how that this can all kind of fill in and you can end up with something relatively simple to implement, but that looks really nice on execution. So, and then what you would do from month to month is just make a copy of this file and you would save it as, save this as October, and then you'd save the next one as November, and you save another one as December, and then you can do this kind of over and over again. And it's totally reusable. So, you can also create ones that are more like a yearly summary that'll have like month-to-month ones, but this is essentially this is the fundamental. You can take this and kind of expand it and add functionality, and you can do that relatively simply. So I hope this was useful to you. I would, once you get to this point, you can turn it in, and I hope that you liked it, and we'll see you in the next video.